The co-investing project focuses on fostering collaboration and co-investment in innovation ecosystems across Europe. Our goal is to empower regional stakeholders, support entrepreneurial initiatives, and enhance the impact of innovation through strategic partnerships and capacity building actions. Co-investing project focuses on creating cross-border co-investment opportunities for modest and moderate EU ecosystems by leveraging promising startups in the portfolio of local investors to attract foreign investors for more advanced ecosystems in their new rounds. This project relies on four main dimensions, which are investment gap analysis, development of market orientation programs, stimulating cross-border investments, and upscaling the framework and enhancing its impact. Today's discussion is an exciting opportunity to share insights, exchange experiences, and explore how we can further support innovation at both regional and EU levels. Thank you again, all of you, for being here today. And now I'm passing the floor to Mr. Filippos Zakopoulos, Managing Partner at Found.ation, who will be moderating today's panel discussion. Filippos, over to you.
Thank you very much, Theodora. It's a great pleasure for me to be here. Found.ation is an innovation management consultancy, and we're part of the co-investing project, which is a very interesting initiative. Today with us, I have Nikos, Giorgos, and Alexandros, three partners at their respective VCs. Nikos Voyagis is a partner at Coralia Ventures, Giorgos Georgiadis is a partner at the Very Curious VC, and Alexandros Karidis is a founding partner and chief legal and governance officer at Sporos Platform. I will give you the floor to each of you guys to say a few words about what you're doing and what your VCs and your thesis stands. The main idea is to have an open discussion around the Greek ecosystem, but also its position in the regional ecosystem, and try to understand how things are changing. Giorgos, we'll start with you. Please give us a bit of a background about you and your VC.
Great. Thank you, Filipe, for the invitation. It's a great pleasure to be here. So from my side, a bit like background information, I'm an engineer turned investor, did my PhD in manufacturing technologies, worked for many years in the automotive industry in different positions, from like more technical stuff to project management, innovations management, and strategy that also involved like investing in startups. And like some months ago, together with my partner, Alex Van Vakas, we launched Very Curious VC with exactly practically the mindset of bringing our engineer turned investor practically career and background into the VC life. So Very Curious VC is an early stage deep tech venture capital, investing usually at the intersection between hardware and software. We like investing in technology that have defensible characteristics, in technologies that have clear competitive advantages and barriers to entry when we compare it with the potential competitors. We feel confident with investing in pre-revenue. We feel confident in like taking a more technological risks rather than market risks, because this is what we also understand better. So in a nutshell, what we would like to focus on is pre-seed, I would say, and seed investments with tickets, initial tickets around 300K with follow-on investments. So this is in a nutshell our framework.
Great, thank you very much. We will dive deeper as we go along. Nico, do you want to also give us your background and your fund's positioning?
Yeah, thank you, Filipe. Thank you so much, and greetings, everyone. My name is Nikos Voyagis. I'm a partner at Coralia Ventures Technology Transfer VC. So as the name implies, it's a venture capital fund that provides financial capital to very early stage and high potential startups with a strong focus. You may call it thesis. So our thesis, Filipe, and everyone, is technology transfer. So predominantly spin-offs from academic and research institutions, but also from industry. But we're very keen on exploiting, diving very, very deep into the technology that is still at embryonic stages and helping it to be commercialized and come to the market. Our fund investors include the Hellenic Development Bank of Investments, financial institutions, technology companies, entrepreneurs. So we have a very good mixture of investors, and in order to be able to accommodate this academia research commercialization journey, myself, but also the other FAR partners, we are all come from engineering and research and academic backgrounds. So we've done 20, 30 years of previous career in research and development, engineering and academia environments. And finally, we took the step into the investment side. Myself, I hold a PhD in digital communications information systems, a diploma of electrical engineering, a master's degree in professional project management, and I have been co-founder of Coralia, a think tank, an incubator and accelerator, started back in 2005. I have supported more than 400 startups to grow in Greece and go global. And I hope to be able to fund a few more to make some of the unicorns of Greece from the spin-off side, at least.
You have a very deep view of the Greek ecosystem. We're going to discuss this a bit further down our discussion. Alexandre, last but not least, can you give us your background and your fund's positioning?
Great pleasure to be with you. Thank you very much for the invitation. And also kudos to this great initiative that I think bring us together and we can promote impact in the Greek ecosystem also through, not just discussing, but also thinking over co-investment opportunities and so on and so forth. So my name is Alexandros Karidis. I'm a founding partner of FOM, one of the 4 co-founders. We are the first impact fund focusing on circular economy in Greece and South. We've started our operations since first closing back then, a 30 million fund size. We recently concluded our second closing on approximately 48 million fund size. Our general focus is on the circular transformation. So we promote growth and innovation within a circular economy ecosystem. And of course, circularity is not just sector, but it's a horizontal systemic transformation that can different sectors. That's why we focus both on logistics, all the smart agriculture and bioeconomy space, industrial symbiosis and remanufacturing, as well as blue economy and sustainable tourism, and a few other specific sectors related to circular economy, like circular enablers and resource efficiency business models. On our side, let's say we have 2 pillars. One is the circular innovation, focusing mostly on startups, as well as the circular transition pillar that addresses more SMEs with more traditional business models that are in a phase of transition towards circularity, adapting new business models, as well as being in a more generational transition. That's why I would say we're not a classic VC, but we have a hybrid strategy where, of course, innovation is a core element. So far, we have invested in 10 companies within a bit more than 1.5 years of operations. And our plan is to invest in around 25 companies. We provide seed plus and Series A capital. We also have some examples in the more traditional SME segment of growth capital in companies that want to pursue internationalization and exports in the fields I mentioned. And regarding our investment basis, it's again HDBI, of course, like most of the Greek funds, and the impact of HDBI is tremendous the last few years, as well as institutional investors and major banks, including pension funds and high net worth individuals, as well as family offices and asset managers from Greece and abroad. This is just as a short intro, and of course we can address several points during the discussion.
That's great. Alexander, we have some lag from you coming. We got most of the things that you said. Yeah. If we move further down and it gets worse,
I can see that my signal was breaking a bit. I will try to improve that during our discussion.
Yeah, up to now it's fine. We got almost everything that you said. It's a problem. So let's start our discussion. I will try to go around the table, not necessarily pointing everybody the same things. Jorga, I will start again with you. You've done your rounds personally, but now you're back in Greece, running one of the newest funds. But how do you see the current state of the market, of the innovation market, of the startup ecosystems, if we look at the region and more specifically at Greece?
Interesting question.
I mean, why did you choose to come here and start? I mean, what's your outtake for the last few years?
Was about to say this, that I consider myself still like a newcomer to Greece, because I relocated back to Greece almost like 2.5, 3 years ago. So even though I was always I was in Germany, I was still in Europe and with strong bonds with Greece, etc. It's different, like doing business and understanding the ecosystem from inside, rather than having like a helicopter view from being abroad and working abroad, etc. So when I first came back to Greece, my first impression was that something was moving towards the right direction. I couldn't decode it and understand exactly what, but I was seeing a progress. To be honest, I left practically Greece in 2011 in very, very difficult times. And I came back when everything was much more stable, the perspectives were different, etc. And this has been also reflected very, very strongly in the mood of the people, in their intention to start new businesses. I have seen people also from my age thinking a bit more entrepreneurial. And I think that what happened also in Greece in difficult times, and the success stories that were created practically throughout these kind of difficult times and survived and were exited, etc., they helped practically create the next generation of entrepreneurs. And I think we're lucky enough to be currently in the position that I consider myself very lucky in this regard, that I can come to a Greece where I see a lot of opportunities within the innovation space. I'm pretty sure that this was not the case some years ago, and pretty straightforward to say this, because back at the time I was discussing, again, I'm referring a bit back to the strategy of our fund. We're focusing on pre-seed stage, but at the same time, we want to do some co-investments alongside other larger VCs, probably at a later stage, with a particular focus on Western European or companies from the DACH region that they would like to explore Southeastern Europe and particularly Greece. So this co-investment scheme is a very substantial part of our VC. And if I wanted to try to do something like that some years ago, it would have been utopical. Right now, this can be a reality. You speak to a German, you speak to a person from Switzerland, from Sweden or whatever, and they are ready to explore opportunities in Greece. They see talent in Greece, they see Greek talent coming back to Greece, and sometimes they even see international talent that would like to work and live in Greece. So I think that this opportunity has emerged in the very, very recent years, and hopefully we will see practically this development also in the next years to come. So, and if I translate this again also to specific verticals, I think that things that have a bit more commercial character are still in the forefront. I would say fintech, some kind of marketplaces, of course, AI is everywhere. But I think that also good engineers and good scientists are ready now to come back to Greece and take advantage of what happened in the last few years to accelerate also at the end of the day their own growth and their own businesses. This is becoming a reality, and this is a great message that we can transfer and spread wider.
That's really interesting. I will actually move to you, Alexandre, now. Nico, I will come back to you with another point of view afterwards. To also combine your point of view for the same question, how do you see the Balkan region, the Greek region? But more specifically, because you guys are doing something that is relatively new for the region, an impact fund. So what is your take of the region? What's your take for Greece for the last few years, Alexandre?
Yeah. Of course, it's a difficult time for predictions because the region and the market is in a turmoil. But I would say
the whole world is in a turmoil. The globe is in a turmoil.
I would say that from a thesis perspective, the need for a circular economy transition is way stronger than we could expect a few years ago. And I would take an erratic view on that because, of course, there is a lot of discussion whether the ESG agenda is falling back because of the recent developments, which is partially true. But at the same time, circularity is being empowered as a concept. And this is because there is a lot of emphasis on EU strategic autonomy. I mean, the whole environment, even from a financial and geopolitical perspective, and all the political instability we've seen recently, as well as the discussion on tariffs and potential trade war, reinforces the need for production models and consumption models where the EU will take the lead again through strategic autonomy, as I mentioned before. And that goes back to materials and how we manage resources. So from our perspective, we see that there is a switch to more localized value chains, as well as stronger collaboration between stakeholders across industry verticals and value chains. And that, of course, reinforces resource efficiency and reinforces business models where you have product as a service, for example, where you have reduced waste and improved material footprint. And for example, I would mention with my capacity as a lawyer that there is a lot of development on the regulatory side of things as well. We see the Critical Raw Materials Act that poses a lot of emphasis on how to create autonomy in terms of critical raw materials in the EU. We will have more than 47 strategic projects that will benefit around 22.5 billion within the next years and fast-track processes. Of course, this is not directly affecting the startup ecosystem, but indirectly creates a condition in the market where a lot of innovation will be tied towards improved resource and material efficiency, as well as energy infrastructures that relate with clean energy and strategic autonomy. So I would like to focus on that side of the analysis because to a big extent, in the next few years, things are going to be affected severely by political developments and policy developments. And I think that the Green Deal agenda and the EU new industrial strategy will play a key role, and entrepreneurs and founders and venture capitals and private equities need to take seriously into account this new mosaic that is unfolding.
That's a great view. Nico, I'll let you for last for this first question, because as we just discussed just before we got on air, you guys at Coralia, you are among the few that you have a view for the past more than 15 years of the Greek ecosystem. I mean, you started as a very early incubator and you've seen the whole Greek ecosystem maturing. So the same question goes to you. How do you see the current state of the market in Balkan Greece? But also added to your answer, how have you seen the actual Greek ecosystem and the VCs in the Greek ecosystem evolving over these years, since where you started personally and since all the way up to where you are now?
Okay, let me start first with the demand side. So the startup ecosystem and those that are seeking financing or other support, let's say. Yeah, I mean, it goes without saying, and everybody who has been around the last 20 years have seen a tectonic change. I won't go into, starting telling stories, horror stories actually, of how things happened in 2005 or 2006. I'll just say in a very small segment of the startup ecosystem, because it's also the focus, the theme now of our VC, so the academic and research ecosystem. I will only mention that back then, when we were going into an academic environment to discuss about entrepreneurship, we had to do that in a kind of a secret way so that nobody would find out, and we would have strong reactions from invited or uninvited guests in these lectures. And nowadays, we've seen universities and research institutes in Greece having their own incubator. So entrepreneurship is now commonly accepted as a concept and as a practice in Greece. So this alone, I think, testifies that we've seen a very, very big progress the last 10 or 20 years. Leaving that aside, Filipe, I think the report that you are annually issuing as an organization about the startup ecosystem alone has a lot of evidence and data on the quantified aspect of things. So qualitatively speaking, we've seen a lot of progress, but when we're speaking about raw figures and data, the current startup ecosystem in terms of sizes, in terms of capitalization, in terms of people involved, has have become 100 times bigger in the last 10 years. So we've seen a tremendous growth. Nonetheless, because you are putting the regional dimension, at the same time, our neighbors in Southeast Europe or Eastern Europe, let alone Western Europe or in other continents, have also grown. So our growth, that we had to catch up a lot of things, was substantial, but the same happened with the rest of the world. I'm saying this because I don't think we fully realize the level of competition that our startups are facing from other regional startups. The supply of talent is quite abundant in many, many regions. I would definitely mention here Romania and Bulgaria as two neighboring European Union countries that have a very vibrant startup ecosystem. So we're not alone in that respect. So we need to take that into account as startups. Now, from a VC point of view, I think we can safely say nowadays that we have managed to cover the entire value chain of investments. Right now, we have venture capital funds in Greece that start like George and Alexandros and ourselves from very, very early stage, and going up to Series A, B, C, or private equity stage. So we managed to have, let's say, funding players in all the windows of investment, which is important and significant because until very recently, we didn't have that. Having said that again, the same has happened with our neighbors. We've seen, I know for firsthand that Southeast European venture capitals are active in Greece. They're investing in Greek startups, which is good. I don't say that this is bad, but the concept of having borders or, let's say, a protective or a closed ecosystem does not apply. So there is a kind of pressure both for the demand side, but also for the supply side. We need to go out there and chase after the good deals ourselves. And I'm not talking about the internal competition, but also external competition. So all in all, I see an environment filled with opportunities from both sides, startups and VCs alike, with some challenges to overcome. Alexandros mentioned a few of them already. But at least
opportunities as well. Which are opportunities as well at the same time.
As well. And for me, and I'm not saying this because this is our thesis, but I really do believe that, I think technology transfer is going to be the biggest opportunity for Greece for the next 10 years. Currently, it's just beginning. It's in very early stages. Our academic and research institutions are just now learning how to approach entrepreneurship. But if this goes well and we help them as an ecosystem partner, both as VCs, but also as incubators and accelerators and with all the other ecosystem partner support, there is tremendous untapped potential. There is really, I do believe that there is very, very promising potential to have high caliber deals out of technology transfer processes comparable to United States or Asia or other, really heavyweight players in this field.
Yorgo, it's normal when you have the start of an ecosystem, venture financing follows with the easiest path. Initially in Greece, even before I would say the Equifund funds or the Jeremy funds, we had 4 generalist funds. Now things are changing. We have a much evolved ecosystem. I think currently, I've lost count, we have 18 active funds focusing on startups, if I'm correct. It changes every month with HDBI how many active funds are out there. I think we have 18 active funds. And we see both generalist and more focus-driven funds. What's your view? What's the situation in Greece? Why do I ask this? Because Greece, no matter how proud we are of our ecosystem, still is a small country and a relatively small ecosystem.
Yeah. Yes, Filipe, you're totally right. Like in terms of the size, I think Greece generally has a pretty large footprint when it comes also to scientists, etc. Like much larger footprint rather than the size of the country or the number of the population practically of the country. But at the same time, I would like, first of all, to take a step back practically on your question. So regarding the maturity and the balance that an ecosystem finds, I think that if we see this, especially around Europe, in the United States, it was a bit different if we see this historically, but at least in Europe, in the beginning, there were some few VCs and more startups. At some point, there are perhaps like more VCs rather than the startups, the good startups that can be funded. So it's a bit difficult to find this balance. The supply-demand balance is never like in a balanced stage, I would say. But I think that right now, slowly, step by step, we're going. I suppose that the next generation of the VC, there will be a consolidation because out of these 18 VCs, we might see like 10 larger or something like that. There could be a consolidation at some point, but I think the ecosystem will find its balance. And when the ecosystem finds its balance, at the same time, we will really see how many generalists we need and how many like domain specific or thesis driven, I would say, like VCs we need. In my opinion, it's a bit risky or a bit premature to say how this is going to like develop and evolve, to be more accurate. But at the end of the day, I think that there are some things where you need practically specialists. For example, biotechnology. In my opinion, biotech or the pharma industry and things like that are verticals where you need like really much, like it's crucial to have domain expertise. Again, there are also sectors where you can be like, I think that, for example, in our case, with our engineering background and exposure on different things, we can understand robotics, for example. We can understand medical devices because it's something that also an engineer built. We can understand clean tech and climate tech. So there is a pretty wide spectrum of things that you can understand. And I don't know if this classifies you as a generalist or as a deep tech generalist or whatever, but at the end of the day, I think that also in the next few steps or in the next few years, we will see VCs that have a pretty wide spectrum because, of course, the geographical definition and restriction, I would say, of Greece creates, of course, a framework. And in this framework, you want to be as flexible as possible. At the same time, I think that the successes and the deals that you identify yourself with a bit more, and we cannot say like all the kids are the same for me. There are specific kids, there are specific startups that you like more. So in this case, these deals that you identify yourself with, they define practically your path and the way that you are going to evolve also as a VC at the end of the day, right? So coming now again back to your question, I think that in the next few years, I expect some kind of consolidation. I expect a few generalist VCs that are going to be a bit more opportunistic, but these VCs, I suppose, they're also going to explore opportunities outside of Greece or bringing practically teams outside of Greece to Greece, like insourcing somehow like talent and new ideas, etc. And at the same time, we'll see in my opinion, more and more like specialists developing on different like verticals. And I think, for example, Equifund 2 is a step towards that direction, for example. That at
Especially
some point,
biotech and health tech, as you mentioned, because they have a specific thesis there.
And some things, for example, digital tech, etc., they have like a more commercial character, but there are things like biotech, pharma, etc., that are very, very, very specific. Yeah.
Alexandre, if I take your view on this, but I also add the element, you guys have a early specific and new focus. The social impact aspect hasn't been explored yet, at least in our region. How do you see this specific focus playing out in Greece, and how do you see the potential of co-investments with local as well as not local VCs and other investors?
Yeah. First of all, I fully agree with George's points, and I'll try to build up on them as well. As you rightly said, Filipe, we are a VC focused a lot on impact. Not that much social. Of course, the social element is always there. But from a typical perspective, we mostly focus on the environmental impact. We followed a very specific process under SFDR, the Sustainability Finance Disclosure Regulation, and we're the first fund in Greece registered as an Article 9 fund, meaning a dark green fund that has a sustainability as a core objective. So this is an integral part of our investment strategy, and also our value creation element towards the investees. So I would start from this point that specialization and thesis is not just in order to be selective towards a big pool of potential investees. It's mostly in order to bring core added value and value creation element in the strategy of the companies that we are targeting. And that can have also a transition element. For example, Sporos is not focusing only in companies that are already green and circular, because that would be a tiny pool. We focus a lot on companies that have a management team that understands the potential, both from a regulatory and market drivers perspective, has the vision and wants to operationalize these changes within the business model and the company. So from our side, we sit down with the management and we create a circular transition plan that is tailor-made on the specific needs of each company and the industry that it operates within. And then we materialize this transition within a 5 years investment horizon. So this is an important aspect that thesis-driven investment strategy needs to be accountable in terms of the value creation that brings in the companies, and also to tie it even with core economics of the VC. For example, now we are considering creating an impact carry mechanism in order to adjust our carried interest based on the impact that we manage to deliver per company. And we have a very specific framework to make that transparent. This is a framework based on the EU taxonomy, and especially rule number 4, which is more focused on circular economy and all this transition described before. And that brings us back to George's point about how we make Greece really a hub and how we use specialization as a means of expansion as well. This is very important because Greece might be a relatively small market, but at the same time has a great strategic positioning between 3 continents and next to huge markets, and at the same time can raise a lot of competitive advantages like the amount of innovation, the scientists, and the low costs. So I would say that this specialized VC approach could actually expand our footprint in other regions and could create local expertise that can then be utilized, for example, in the Middle East market, in huge potential markets like Istanbul and Cairo next to us, and many other options that are not that much explored by traditional players in Western and Nordics, for example, venture capital ecosystem. And I will conclude by saying that creates, of course, potential for investment opportunities. and in my opinion could also drive the exit options, because exit options and private equity funds turn to be increasingly sophisticated on specific areas and theses. And I think that if we manage to create local champions and success stories and export them, that could increase the exit potential as well. Because of course we need unicorns, but we mostly need exits. And in order to boost that, we can go also for medium players within the real economy space. And I will conclude with that, because we see a lot of tech VCs. Of course, it makes sense. This is the major strategy. But if we focus just on tech players, we might create a misalignment with many exciting investment opportunities in the real economy that are connected to the way we produce and we consume things, and that may not give a 10 or 20x, but might guarantee a 5x within an investment horizon, and at the same time a lot of quantifiable and transformable impact for the region.
This is a very healthy approach.
And the medium risk profile, which is also important, at least in our strategy.
It's also your strategy. Nico, how do you see, with your technology transfer focus, what is your strategy about co-investments? Would you look locally to have other players with you that fit well in the puzzle, or would you look regionally or globally to find similar funds from other regions?
Okay, so we have a two-tier ticket approach. So initially we go in with up to 300,000 as well, and then we do a follow-on of 1 or 1.5 million where we see promising potential. For the first ticket, our co-investment strategy, and indeed we do have a co-investment strategy. We think it's very important to have co-investors, especially at that kind of segment, at this kind of investment window. We look locally being nationally. And it's, as a matter of fact, there is a very fortunate and favoring environment that has been created the last few years, giving tax incentives to business angels to invest. And for the ticket that we are dealing with, it's quite easy, or let's say feasible, to have private investors in the form of business angel co-investing with us tickets of like 50 or 100K. So we found that this approach gives good value to the investment, gives very good value to the investee, because along with us as an institutional investor, we have an expert, we have a subject matter or a sectoral guy that is very good in tech or entrepreneurship or marketing or something that he or she is very strong, going in with us. We are doing all the, let's say, administrative work of the investment. So we're doing all the due diligence, so we're making sure everything is in place. So we take all the headaches of the investment away from the business angels. And we see that this really works. And we have in the pipeline already 3 or 4 cases of this structure. Us together with a prominent business angel, private investor. For the next round, for follow-on rounds, or for, let's say, later rounds in our strategy, we see that syndication with other VCs at regional level in Europe, Southeast or Central or Eastern Europe, would be beneficial in expanding the network of our investment. In this respect, we maintain good relationships with VCs in Bulgaria and Romania already. We have something that we are about to announce, so it's a deal that we're investing alongside one of the other regional VCs. And at this later stage of our investment strategy, we think that bringing in a VC outside Greece will really expand the value and the and the opportunities for exit along the way. So this is how we're approaching it. As we just started, Filipe, I'll take a bit of a rain check to let you know in a year or two how it turned out.
How it goes. Since
we will read it in the next report. We will read it in your next report.
In your next report, yeah, hopefully. I'm trying also to keep the time frame here, so I will try to go around the table and also give you the opportunity for each of you to select one startup that you want to talk about. 2 or 3 minutes. Try to give us your reason why you got your position in the startup, or maybe even you are looking to get a position if you haven't done the investment. And they also give us a bit of a background, what does the specific startup do, so everybody that hears maybe get some cases along in the air, some idea of what is happening in Greece. Alexander, we'll start with you. You've been investing for a while as one of the new funds, so select one of the most interesting ones that you think. Your favorite kid, as Yoro said. Or not?
I think everyone in the team might have different favorite kids. Of course, we love them all. I hope they love us back. I am going to mention the case of Metalis because I think it's a case where we can get a lot of insights about our strategy. So Metalis is a company that promotes tech leasing, leasing of high-tech products and equipment. It's a solution within the product as a service business model segment that I described before, and relates very much with recent dynamics on consumer behavior, and especially younger generation of consumers that prefer to use things rather than own them. So usership compared to ownership. The interesting aspect is that Metalis has mostly a B2B focus, which is important for us because it also mitigates the risks and can provide important entrepreneurial solutions. It's a company that has a capex intensive element, but at the same time, a significant profit margin. It's a company that can then grow also through debt and not just, endless rounds of equity. And
did you invest on your own there, or you had some co-investors?
Yeah, we invested on our own in this round. It was a 1 million investment from our side. We've seen the turnover trebling within a few months in the company. And what is really important is that apart from the leasing of tech products, the company also provides consultancy services that improve, the company's fleet management operations when it comes to how they manage the technology and equipment they have, and they can expand in many different products. Also, the material and impact footprint is very important, as they manage to reduce hundreds of thousands of tons of CO2, because if you give a second or a third life in a phone, that means that you don't have all the CO2 all the CO2 that comes through the production, as well as minimization of waste. And we have tried to improve their operations by setting together a circular transition plan focusing mostly on packaging, as well as new products that untap potential related with the insurance market. Because insurance product offering, of course, fits greatly with leasing. And it's important to see that through the evolving regulatory landscape as well, because there will be plenty of incentives in companies or even at the government perspective in order to promote leasing compared to buying new products, because of course that has a strong financial and environmental return.
That's really interesting. And Nico, I will move to you. 1 or 2 minutes, one of your investments that you would like to highlight.
Okay, since we haven't announced them yet, so I won't be naming names.
That's why I said if you want to disclose, because you're quite early, guys.
However, I can give you the profile, which is very interesting.
That's
why we did that and how we did that. So, okay, I don't know if I can pick a favorite one, but we have a couple we're about to announce. So one is in the life sciences sector. So it's in medtech, and the reason we went for this is that it has a very strong team, especially the lead investigator, the principal researcher is an academic that has pretty much taken the decision to abandon the academic career to focus fully on the business one. So we found this a very good point. Has tremendous IP defensibility with 5 patents. So very, very strong IP portfolio. Very high scalability. And it is one of the cases that if it goes well, it's a really unicorn kind of status of product. So this is a high risk, but a very high return case. And the other one is a software. It's a more, let's say, less risky investment. It's a technology transfer from a team from the private sector, which is one of the few that we know about. So very rare cases of tech transfer happening from industry to the market. And a really great team. And the nice thing about it is that it has a plan A for an exit if it goes well, but also it's a plan B. So a much more modest or realistic alternative exit scenario, which may not be a 20 or 30 times the investment, but it will be 5 or 6 times back. So it gives you this confidence that one way or another, they will bring back value to us and to the investors of the fund.
I'm really curious about your second one because it's private technology transfer, but we will find out when you announce it. What about you, Yoro? A couple of minutes for one of your investments, if you want to disclose.
Sure. So my favorite kid is SolidWatch. SolidWatch is actually, in a nutshell, a spin-off of CERN, founded by, and I'm starting like that because it's not obvious, the Greek angle is not obvious yet. There are like 2 Germans sitting in Geneva. It's a spin-off of CERN. They're doing microwave heating at industrial scale, but we know like from our homes, but at industrial scale, to decarbonize the industry, to make heating more efficient, to not only save CO2 emissions, but also make much more cost efficient the heating process, like compared to the standard, like large furnaces, gas furnaces, etc. The interesting thing with them is that they have already revenue, which is pretty unusual for such kind of deep tech companies. They are working with like one big player also in the United States, also doing carbon capturing. And the interesting thing about the Greek angle and why I brought it so much up is that it was a clear discussion with them that, okay, why Greece? I mean, and why should they take our money? I don't have illusions that we are the best and most well-renowned VC in Europe, right? So we are discussed with them. We have worked with them. We try to add value on them up front. So we help them secure 2 pilot projects. They started now a small series production in Greece, in the northern eastern part of Greece, practically in the collaboration with the company. At the same time, they're hiring 2 people in Greece because they have seen value in this. And I think that this is something super interesting for us and a big opportunity, because some years ago, they would have produced everything in China. Right now, because of geopolitical situation, this does not come in question. So it's actually, I don't know, like for a typical Swiss company, they either go to Poland, they go to Bulgaria, etc. So we have to fight our way in and show them that Greece has something to offer. At the time that we did it, and we also showed them that, guys, look, check it out. Like there are many good engineers here. You can hire a good mechanical engineer at half or perhaps even 1/3 of the price that you can do in Switzerland. And this has a potential for you. They were open to explore this opportunity. And coming back to like the co-investment scheme of the things is that we also co-invested. Like, okay, we led practically the round. It was a round of 900K, more or less, and we invested 300K in this company. And it was like we co-invested alongside like other business angels, but also alongside the Kick fund, like the Venture Kick, which is a big like deep tech fund in Switzerland. So for us, this was a very, very interesting case because this shows the potential generally, like independent from the company. I truly believe in the company, but at the same time, I think that this shows the potential of what we can do and about how we can identify synergies between, I would say, more established innovation deep tech ecosystems and Greece, which in my opinion is still an emerging deep tech ecosystem when it comes to deep tech, right? So we can find synergies there, and this is also a great case study, in my opinion.
That's really interesting. Moving to our last discussion, I will also want to ask people that are participating, if you have any quick question, please write it in the chat, and I will ask Alexandros, Nikos, and Yorgos to reply to it. From me, before we finish, a more light-hearted question. As we said, system by the unicorns, but this is always a case that we like to follow how many unicorns we have in each country. So if you want to place your bets, we're going to have any big successes in the next couple of years, 2 or 3 years. Do you have any companies that you believe will move towards this exit stage of 1 billion? I will start, Nico, with you.
Okay. Whether we like it or not, VC is a game of statistics. So, of course, we can do our best and filter out and use our best of the best KPIs and judgment and gut feeling and everything. But at the end of the day, statistics play a very dominant role. So, looking bottom up, for reasons which are really interesting, and maybe this could be another topic of discussion in some other opportunity, Filipe. Greece currently has a tremendous concentration in life sciences. Our statistics, both from scouting and bottom up that we see, is 35 to 40% of our deal flow is in life sciences domain. Again, this is a peculiar thing. Why this happened and how it's a long discussion, but at the end of the day, we see a lot of activity there. So I believe that the next deep tech unicorn won't come from AI or data analytics or energy tech or anything else. It will be from the life sciences domain for Greece. And hopefully it will be sooner than later. Not pharmaceuticals or pharma discovery. I think this is out of the reach of our capacity and arsenal as an ecosystem. But medtech and diagnostics and other areas are really within our grasp. And again, very high concentration in this field.
That's a very interesting point of view because, as you say, statistics work. Alexandre, do you want to place any bets?
First of all, unfortunately, I can't name any potential unicorn from our portfolio right now because I would get entrapped regarding the valuation of the next round. You know, if we want to make a follow-on investment, that would be tricky. I agree that biotech and life sciences have a very strong potential, also because we have created strong local expertise. As a lawyer, I have participated some years ago in a transaction of a unicorn pharma company, Pharma10, when it was bought by BC Partners. It was one of the first in Greece, and a very successful story that continues. Okay, the safe bet is something related to AI, probably. But to reverse the question a bit, I would raise a point that was raised during the recent ugly duck of EIF, when they started talking about unicorns, and then they made the point for the impact unicorns, meaning companies that have the potential to directly or indirectly affect the life of more than 1 billion people. I think we could put that in the table as well. Of course, if it happens, then you have high chances that it becomes a financial unicorn as well. But to play a safe bet, I would say that at least our main target for the Greek ecosystem is to produce strong companies that can bring healthy international exits. But what would be even more important is to start seeing successful and big exits with Greek protagonists and Greek big corporates that have a multinational angle as well, taking the lead on that. I think that would transform the Greek ecosystem because we have seen it abroad. We've seen market leaders encapsulating innovation and then building up on that and expanding their operations abroad. In Greece, we haven't seen it so far. And I think that there is a lot of room for Greek big corporates and strategic investors to play a role there, and of course attract international capital as well through their access to international.
I was aiming for something like a blue ground or a Persado, but you guys are going the analytical.
I left it for George.
Yeah, George, what about you?
So, yeah, I mean, I totally agree on what Nikos and Alexander said before, right? So I think that, I don't expect the next unicorn. I mean, no, I will start in another way. I think that sooner rather than later, we will see a Skype effect in Greece coming from Viva, from Scrooge, from these companies. And I think that the next generation is not, again, the next generation of a potential unicorn is not, again, probably a marketplace, but is something that has still, in my opinion, even though I'm investing in deep tech, still will be in the commercial space, of course, enhanced with AI and everything, can be like a crazy, nice chatbot or whatever. So there are many opportunities in this space. And I think that we will find Scrooge, the new Scrooge or Viva or whatever mafia, the same as the PayPal mafia, we will find such kind of models in Greece. However, I think that what the country and the ecosystem needs to make it to the next step is more large size exits rather than unicorns. In my opinion, we need more augmentas, let's say. Mm-hmm. So companies that made it from the ground up and made an exit around 100 million, something like that. And I think that this is something that if everything goes normally and it evolves normally according to what we're seeing today, we will see such kind of exits in the next few years. And a great example that I have been following also in my previous career is Icomat, for example. And because, I mean, the interesting thing is that the guys had from the very beginning on a very interesting technology. They were trying to find practically the space in the automotive industry. Carbon fibers in the automotive industry are a bit niche, but now with the defense applications, etc., everything goes to another level. And I think such kind of companies that are around for some few years, have matured, and are now ready to make it to the next steps, will have very, very good chances to do great exits.
And since it is a game of statistics, as Nikos rightly said, that will bring the unicorns as well.
Yeah, exactly. To echo what all of you said, this is a healthy path. I mean, obviously, we all go after this arbitrary number of 1 billion, but for Greece, it's more normal to go to the 100 or 200 or 300 million stage first and have more there. Before we end, Nico, we have a question that mentions your name, but anybody else can fill in. They say you mentioned that you invest in early stage startups, especially from universities. How important is it for you that these startups hold a patent or an IP license? And also, which valuation method do you typically use when you're evaluating? The evaluation is a bit more difficult, but let's go for the IP question first.
Okay. Actually, this is a great question. I don't know the background of the person who asked it, but it's right, it's spot on. The IP is the most sensitive and important topic in technology transfer. Leaving aside all the, let's say, bad scenarios where IP has been contaminated or leaked one way or another through publications or insufficient patenting or anything like that. So let's take the good case scenario that everything has been done in order and the host institution has protected and defended things up to the point of the spin-off and the technology transfer taking place. We have two main options. One is licensing. So the host institution provides an exclusive license, or let's say a license of the IP to the startup, and it's critical at that point in time to grant it indefinitely. We've seen a very bad practice in some cases of institutions where the IP is licensed for a finite period of time, let's say 5 or 10 years. And following that period, the IP goes back to the parent institution, which is a really deal breaker for a VC. So it's absolutely imperative that if licensing is part of the game, this is indefinite and stays with the startup forever until hopefully an exit. A better for us case is that there is actually an IP transfer. So the IP rights are assigned, are transferred from the university or the research institution to the startup in exchange of equity. This, which for us is the better option, currently we see the institutions being a bit reluctant to pursue for various reasons, which is a very long discussion, but we think this is part of the ecosystem, of that ecosystem maturing process to feel more confident for the organization to take equity and assign permanently the IP without any finite or other period of licensing. So for us, this is the best option. And to tell you also a bit more about it, we are working with the technology transfer offices of the institutions to help create awareness and educate the ecosystem why this is eventually and in the long term a better approach than what currently is the state of affairs.
I mean, you're preaching. I mean, changing the academic ecosystem is something really important and something really, really difficult. It will happen. It takes time. The second part of the question, and because I'm sensitive about the time, it asks what evaluation methods do you use for early stage startups? I'm really skeptical to open this can of worms. I do not know if any of you wants to say something quick, but we're a bit over our 1 hour. Yorgo, Alexandre, Nico, do you want to add anything about how do you evaluate?
Okay, George,
yeah, go for it.
Okay, I mean, regarding evaluation, of course, there are the typical like VC, DCF methods, etc. But at the end of the day, everything comes back to something a bit more, I would say, qualitative rather than quantitative, right? So we have to understand how large is the market, how quickly can the company scale, how defensible everything is, what are the comparables, what similar transactions happened in the recent years. Also, what is the dilution expected that the founder takes at a specific stage of like financing. So the whole thing is so polyparametric that we cannot bring everything back to a typical financial method that is the absolute truth practically, and everybody can trust this source. So everything, all this different information, plus a bit the negotiation skills of the founder, etc., that of course play a role in this case, leads us to like the final valuation. And at the end of the day, it's a deal, right? So at the end of the day, it's important to find common ground and do the handshake at the end of the day. So everything comes back to this.
Yeah,
I think that was a
really this is. Sorry.
No, go on, Nico. Go.
I wanted to verify that this is what happens, and especially in the case of technology transfer, where practically the spin-offs have zero track record, so absolutely no historical data whatsoever, no market traction or not anything. So this is the 90% of the cases. There is really point there to go over traditional valuation methods that have to do with any of that. So it's kind of deal-making process of this is how we value and we perceive your prospects in the future. There is always the option of having a convertible note, so delaying the valuation till further in the future and agreeing on a discount today. We've done this also already in some cases, and this can be a compromise. But speaking of strictly terms of valuation and equity, I think at the end of the day, you go through a, let's say, handshake agreement, and how much the team believes in the investor, and not only in the money that you give them, but also in the other perks, especially for spin-offs. And I'm saying this now in a positive term, in a positive way. Those people and those teams are quite good in fundraising from non-equity sources. So they are very adept in getting grants and subsidies, sometimes in millions of euros. So money alone is not most of the times the main deal-making element. You have to demonstrate your capacity as an investor to bring to them commercialization, networking, B2B prospects, so things that money can't buy, let's say, in order to agree eventually in the partnership. So for me, that's the winning point and decisive point also for the valuation as well.
I don't think that I have many things to add. You expressed it in a very clear way, but I would say three things. First, that valuation at this stage is mostly an art and not a science. Second, the fact that a very high valuation, especially in the beginning, could actually impede the progress of a project, and the founders need to take that seriously into account, because it's not the best thing to have a down round afterwards, or to get entrapped in a valuation that you cannot justify based on the results of your business plan, while the firm has a lot of potential in terms of product, technology, and so on. And third, of course, the team is the most important aspect. And even from a procedural perspective, we have a risk management and compliance committee. So before we reach the investment committee, we have a risk assessment report, and we take into account a thorough evaluation of several risks that we encapsulate into the valuation method that, of course, we adjust for each project. And one of the core risks that we take into account is the governance, because corporate governance is really important, especially for us that we invest in companies with market traction and let's say financial rounds that exceed 1 million most of the times. And corporate governance is the Achilles heel in the Greek market, mostly for big corporates. Startups are not an exclusion, but we see a lot of improvement the last few years. And I think that creating these corporate structures from the beginning is really important to attract institutional capital and international VCs in the next round. And finally, it's important to have companies that are run by entrepreneurs and not just professional fundraisers. Fundraising is important, is an integral element, especially when you're at the early stage. But what we want to see is a clear path towards profitability at some point.
That is great. It was a good overview in the end of helpful tips for somebody starting this path. Thank you all for your time. It was a really interesting discussion. This is going to be included in the co-investing platform, where you can find other discussions like this from other regional ecosystems, so it may be of help to you guys. Thank you, everybody, for participating. All the best. Bye now.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Bye.
Thanks for the invitation.